Hello, my name is Bria Haynes. I am a student at Kutztown University, and my major is professional writing. I do not have any significant involvement at the university as of this moment, but in this video, I will be covering some of the topics that I have written for my journalism class with Dr. Downing, as well as covering the materials that I have learned. In this class, we went over a variety of topics that related to journalism, and these topics expanded to current events, famous journalists, and relevant media and news. First, I will be promptly explaining some of the current events that I had the opportunity to write about. These will include the First Amendment and artificial intelligence. I believe the First Amendment is one of the most significant aspects to journalism, so it was important to cover. First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states that the government shall not interfere with the individual freedoms of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petitioning. However, while writing about this amendment, I got to share my thoughts on how poorly it's been conducted in the United States. It doesn't always protect the freedoms of every U.S. citizen, since these freedoms are directly violated in some form or another almost every day. Next, I will be talking about artificial intelligence, which refers to the capabilities of digital technology, essentially performing tasks that are commonly associated with human intelligence. In my writing for it, I made the assertion that I don't entirely agree with the idea that AI should be completely abolished, as it can be a helpful tool if it's used properly. However, I did make a note on generative AI and how it can be extremely harmful. The subsection of generative AI is extremely harmful to both the media it replicates and the individuals who depend on it. Now I will be discussing a famous journalist that I got to research. Ida B. Wells Barnett was an extremely influential American journalist, as well as a civil rights activist and suffragist. She was well known for her advocacy of African American rights, as well as her work in anti-lynching campaigns. In my research, I got to explain the timeline of her profound legacy, as she has been remembered as an influential figure in journalism and the civil rights movement. Her determination to report and advocate for racial equality inspired many future generations of activists who sought for the same rights. Unfortunately, I will now be covering a news site that I heavily disliked. The Daily Caller is a right-wing news and opinion website based in Washington, D.C. It was founded in 2010 by Tucker Carlson, a political commentator, and Neil Patel, a political advisor. In my research, I explained how the Daily Caller is an extremely biased and misinformed site because it is known for publishing false stories. These stories often reject facts that were proven by science and keep misinformed articles listed on their website. There have been a concerning number of cases in which multiple Daily Caller editors have been revealed to be connected to alt-right groups, as well as expressing white supremacist views. In this class, I had the opportunity to learn more about the foundation of journalism, aside from what I had previously gathered on the surface. When it comes to the topics of current events, I was able to understand why journalism is so widely produced. It helps a majority of people to understand the severity of some current events and become more aware of what they can do with the information they are exposed to, especially if they weren't aware of the severity beforehand. For example, everyone knows about AI, given how abundantly it's been produced in every digital application. However, not many people are aware of the environmental effects that generative AI can produce, or how overindulging can become mentally harmful. It's very easy for some people to brush these things off because they don't realize its negative effects or consequences. Therefore, it becomes more important for everyone to understand how harmful certain aspects of generative AI can be, both to the people and to the environment. I was also able to learn more about how different journalists are able to apply their work and talents. While researching Ida B. Wells, I learned about her work as an advocate for civil rights and her profound legacy in both journalism and the civil rights movement. I was given a better understanding of what really creates journalistic integrity in some writers. It's not always just about covering the current news, it's also being able to advocate for the rights of the people, especially when a specific group is targeted, discriminated against, or even harmed. Finally, I was able to understand how there has to be a fine separation of what can be classified as news or opinions. While I was fully aware of this fact before taking the class, I was exposed to some sites that still blur the line between those two things. Especially when researching the Daily Caller, I was surprised to see how this site did not create the separation between opinions and news, especially when it came to their misinformed articles, which showed extreme bias. I understand that a significant aspect of journalism is that it can provoke different thoughts and opinions, especially when covering current events. However, I've learned that it's very important for those thoughts and opinions to not already be established or pushed onto a reader when a journalist is covering an event. While researching the Daily Caller, I was able to learn the very important lesson of how journalists and editors should not conduct their work. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my works and what I have learned. My name is Bria Haynes. I am a professional writing major for Kutztown University of Pennsylvania.